Thank you for logging on to this episode of the Minority Marketplace. My guest today is Tracey Russell, who writes under the pen name TraceyGirlz, and we're here to talk about her new book, Tales of Indifference. Tracey, how are you doing this evening?
I'm fine, Michael. How are you?
Start out by telling me a little bit about the book.
Great, Michael. I love to. Well, this is an anthology of short stories, and it talks a lot about different issues.
Mm-hmm.
It talks a little bit about friendships. It talks about military relationships. It talks a little bit about multiple personality disorders, and it talks about collegiate friendships.
Okay. So, about how many stories are contained in the book?
Probably about 12 to 15. Not too many.
Mm-hmm.
Just enough to kind of get the palate wet,
Okay.
and enough to kind of have you wanting the next story, which will be coming out very soon.
Okay. What's your favorite short story in this book?
Oh, Michael, you're cheating. You're cheating, Michael. You shouldn't have gone there. I have several. I would probably say the one that kind of talks about, I'm not going to tell you.
Okay.
Probably Best Friends. I'll tell you
Best
that. Best Friends.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the tagline.
The tagline. Well, the tagline is sultry, secretive, and simplistic short stories. And in the tagline, it kind of leads you into, number one, sultry, because there's a lady who talks about a former relationship.
Right.
And she was trying to fall in love, and she, of course, her heart was broken. That's enough right there. We're not going to go too deep into that.
Okay.
And secretive, as you know, most of us have gone up with secrets all throughout our lives, all throughout our childhood. I'm not going to tell you too much about that.
Right.
And simplistic. There's a lot of things that's just basic. You don't want to get too deep into a book. Sometimes you go too deep.
Right.
But it's not too deep. But it's enough to kind of keep you going.
Okay. All right.
So anybody can read it.
Okay. Well, who would be your ideal audience?
I would say my ideal audience is any true reader. I would primarily target women.
Okay.
But then again, if there's a man who's sitting near her, he'd want to lean over and say, "Baby, what you reading?" I want to know what's got you so involved, so deep, that's got you up a little late at night. So he may say, "Baby, who is that man that you're looking into?" So he may want to be a little nosy too. So it's okay if he wants to kind of peek and see what she's reading about.
Okay. Is this your first novel, or?
Well, truthfully, I've been writing for years.
Okay.
Because I used to write for a magazine back at home. I'm from Memphis, so I used to write for magazines. So I've been writing for years. Truthfully, I used to do ghostwriting. And of course, as a ghostwriter, you never get credit. And I'm okay with that. I don't need to get credit for everything I've done. I don't have to. I know what I've done. And I'm not trying to put my name out there all around the world. But this is my first book. But I am in the process of writing 3 ebooks, so they're all coming out at the same time. Okay. And of course, I'm working on my doctoral degree, so I got a lot of big things coming out at the same time. So, you know.
Okay, now you mentioned one of the stories, or a few of the stories in here, deal with mental health issues. Now, tell us a little bit about your background, your professional background.
Well, I have a master's degree in social work.
Okay.
And I have about 19 years in social work in totality. So I have touched on everything from mental illness to working with youth, to working with the geriatric population, to working with A&D, which is alcohol and drug abuse. Okay. I've worked with people with sexual abuse, to working with, of course, we can go back to people who've been sexually assaulted. Right. So just a barrage of issues in, you know, the field as a whole in social work.
Okay.
Or social services.
So is that where you draw some of the inspiration, some of the story ideas?
Some. Not all. Not all. Because in life itself, you know, you're affected, you know. Right. Let's just say in Columbia, since I'm here now, you know, you can look in the newspaper every day and see something going on. Right. You know, you can drive down the street and you can see somebody who's just across the street at the bus station, and you can see our people who are sitting outside. That's a story right there. You can drive down the street and look at somebody in the car, and you can see a situation going on in the car. 2 people who are just inspired right there. Unfortunately, let's just say somebody who's smoking in the car with a child. You know, that's a story in and of itself. Right. You know, despite what your personal views are, about that situation. Or let's just say somebody drove down the street and turned on the red light, and you got a ticket for it, despite what your personal views are. That's the story right there.
Okay. So you kind of draw your inspiration
from life.
From life. Okay. Tell us a little bit about the cover art. Interesting cover art.
Yes. You know, I'm not an artist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we all have our own niche, if you will.
Right.
And I do a lot of praying before I do anything, and I just say, God, I don't want to get too deep with the letters. So I wanted the font to be very simple. I wanted the font to be something that people could actually see. So I wanted the font to be very, very basic. But when it came to the pictures, I wanted the pictures to be people, just a barrage of people. Mm-hmm. You know, didn't necessarily have to be white or black or Asian or Hispanic or Latino. Just wanted to be people as a whole. So, you know, this happened to actually being something that came from the publisher themselves. They did not tell me what to pick, but I wanted to be just a lot of people themselves so we can all see ourselves within the cover art itself. But for the next book, I really am looking for somebody to actually work with my vision itself to help me walk through what I can see.
Okay, but before we get out of here, I definitely want, and I always ask this of all the authors, can you give us a tip for other aspiring authors out there, tip to kind of help you make it through writing a book? Because I know writing a book is a very difficult task. It's not easy to do. So if you could give the writers out there just one tip about how you complete your project.
The best tip is you never give up. Mm-hmm. You never give up. There's so many people who say it's crazy. You know, so many people think that it's a moot point to write a book. Is you never ever do anything with it. Mm-hmm. Why write a book? It's just a bunch of words on a page, and so often you never have anybody cheering you on. Mm-hmm. You know, my theory is you don't have to have a cheering squad. Sometimes it's just for you because you know it in your heart. Do it for you. Do it because you truly believe in your passion, your project. Because if that's what you believe in, do it. It may take that fifth book for somebody else to believe in you, but if it's what you believe in, go for it.
Okay. Now, where can we purchase the book?
Of course, it's on Amazon. I wrote this book through Author House. I'm an independent author, so I did not have I'm not out there with the huge publishing companies right now. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that's what it's really about. I think if you truly believe in yourself, the big boys will see you. You know, I see that there are more and more people actually noticing, and that's okay. So more and more projects, more individuals are noticing it. I see that the Twitters and the Instagrams and all those individuals are feeding into it, so that's fine. So of course I am actually feeding into more individuals such as yourself. So I will be on more sources very, very soon. So just continue to look for TraceyGirlz, and I'll be able to be on Google. Well, I am on Google now. So just look for TraceyGirlz and you'll see my project.
Tracy, thank you again for sitting down with us, and thank you for taking the time out to watch the Minority Marketplace. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you are a minority business owner who has developed the product, or if you've written a novel and would like to be a guest on the show, please contact us at info@theminorityi.com.